The Lamborghini Countach was developed in the early 1970s context, when Lamborghini needed an entirely new model after the Miura. Instead of continuing to refine the existing configuration, the company chose a different approach, in which the overall shape of the car was determined very early on. The Countach was designed and produced at Sant'Agata Bolognese, Italy. The project in Oppo's goal did not focus on everyday usability, but aimed to create a very low and very wide body, clearly distinct from contemporary sports cars. The body design used large flat surfaces and sharp edges. This shape directly imposed requirements on the underlying structure, forcing the chassis to be built to support the pre-established form. The Countach chassis used a welded steel space frame structure, serving as the load-bearing foundation for the entire body and mechanical systems. This construction allowed maintaining a very low overall height while ensuring necessary rigidity. Welds on the frame directly affected the body and oppose as torsional stiffness. With the low body and large flat surfaces, the frame structure had to handle most of the deformation control during operation. The floor was integrated with the frame to form a unitary structure. This design determined the low driving position and tight cabin layout of the Countach. The body used lightweight metal panels shaped to cover the space frame. The material was chosen to balance weight and the ability to maintain stable shapes for the flat body surfaces. Body panels were test-fitted and aligned directly on the frame. Alignment focused on straightness and continuity of flat surfaces, rather than optimizing gaps for comfort standards. Wheel arches were designed wide to accommodate large wheels. This design shaped the low and wide appearance of the Countach while influencing wheel and suspension placement space. The front end was designed very low, mainly covering front suspension components and auxiliaries. The rear covered the mid-engine bay, playing a role in completing the overall body shape. Scissor doors were chosen as a solution to the low body and wide sills. The door structure stemmed from layout and structural requirements, not decorative purposes. Unlike conventional sports cars, the Countach did not evolve from mechanical layout towards shape. Instead, the shape dictated everything that followed. Engineers were required to adapt structure, packaging, and ergonomics to a form that was already fixed. This reverse development logic placed unusual pressure on the chassis. The structure had to preserve the integrity of flat surfaces and sharp angles under load, rather than allowing the body to flex naturally as on curved designs. When the chassis and body were completed, the Countach had fully formed the basic structure of a car, where shape was the starting point. At this point, the car lacked a complete drivetrain, but spatial and structural limits were clearly defined. This formed the foundation for the Countach to move to the next stage, where mechanical systems had to be arranged and operate within the pre-established body framework. The Lamborghini Countach used a mid-engine, rear-wheel drive configuration, continuing the approach Lamborghini established with the Miura. However, on the Countach, mechanical layout was directly influenced by the very low body and cabin position far forward. Lamborghini chose a 4.0-liter V12 engine for the initial production version. This engine was developed to meet high-performance requirements while fitting the spatial limits imposed by the body structure. The engine block used aluminum alloy to control weight and temperature under high-rev operation. Placement of auxiliary components was directly affected by the limited engine bay height. The intake system used Weber carburetors, allowing mechanical adjustment of fuel delivery. This solution suited early 1970s technical standards and reflected the Countach and Oppo's pure mechanical approach. The engine was mounted longitudinally. The 5-speed manual gearbox was positioned in front of the engine, with the propeller shaft transmitting torque to the rear axle. This arrangement was chosen to fit the predetermined frame, length, and structure. A dry clutch-handled torque transmission from engine to gearbox. This configuration allowed direct power delivery without assistance to lighten operation. Rear-wheel drive kept the front wheels focused entirely on steering. All propulsion was delivered to the rear wheels in original mechanical character. Independent suspension equipped all four wheels to control wheel geometry and body motion under the low and wide body conditions. Suspension design prioritized stability over comfort. Disc brakes fitted all four wheels, meeting deceleration needs for a high-performance model of the era. Braking effectiveness depended directly on driver input and feel. The unassisted mechanical steering system was retained. Front-wheel feedback was transmitted directly to the steering wheel, clearly reflecting the characteristics of a mechanical structure working within preset limits. Mechanical systems were not tuned to soften the Countach's behavior. Instead, they were calibrated to function reliably within severe packaging constraints imposed by the body. Heat management, vibration control, and accessibility were constant challenges rather than secondary concerns. The Countach's drivetrain required the driver to adapt to the machine. Power delivery was linear but unforgiving, and a lack of assistance meant that every control input carried direct mechanical consequence. When all mechanical systems were completed, the Countach formed a driving configuration where engine and drivetrain were not designed to enhance comfort, but to exist and operate correctly within the pre-established body structure framework. The Lamborghini Countach interior was designed around control rather than convenience. The cabin layout directly reflected the limits imposed by the low and wide body structure from the outset. Seating position was very low, close to the road surface. This layout helped the driver directly feel chassis and suspension movements, but also restricted cabin space. Seats had a simple design, focused on holding the body stable during directional changes. Comfort level was not a priority in the Countach interior structure. The instrument panel was flat, with key parameters like engine revs and speed in direct line of sight. The goal of this layout was to provide essential operation information without additional functions. Auxiliary gauges displayed temperature and pressure, allowing the driver to monitor mechanical status. All used analog displays, providing direct feedback typical of high-performance cars of the era. The steering wheel connected directly to the mechanical steering system. Front-wheel feedback was transmitted straight to the driver without any softening intermediary. The mechanical gear lever was positioned close to the driver. Long and positive shift travel suited the 5-speed manual and V12 torque. Visibility and ergonomics were compromised in favor of preserving the body form. Thick pillars, shallow glass angles, and a long nose define the driving experience, especially at low speeds. The interior required deliberate movement and adaptation. Controls were placed where space allowed, not where comfort dictated, reinforcing the Countach's uncompromising nature. The Countach exterior was developed based on large flat surfaces and sharp edges. The low and wide body created proportions completely different from traditional contemporary sports cars. Body surfaces were designed flat, with few continuous curves. This shaping maintained the overall form established from the initial design phase. Scissor doors continued to serve as a solution for the low body and wide sills. This design addressed layout and usage purposes while becoming an identifying feature of the Countach. When interior and exterior were completed, the Countach became a unified control space, where the driver had to adapt directly to the body structure and proportions decided from the beginning. After completing mechanical assembly and interior/exterior finishing, the Lamborghini Countach entered the final paint and inspection stage. This step confirmed the car met factory release standards according to the company and Oppo's technical criteria. The body was surface treated to ensure metal panels maintained the aligned shapes and positions. Treatment focused on surface uniformity without altering the overall form. Finish paint was applied through a manually controlled process. Coverage and thickness were consistently maintained to protect materials and ensure durability in real-world conditions. After painting, body panels were rechecked for straightness and fit. Any deviations exceeding allowances were adjusted before mechanical inspection. The engine system was started and run through a standard test cycle. Temperature, pressure, and rev stability were monitored to confirm V12 operation capability. The drivetrain was evaluated through shifting and continuous power transmission. Gearbox and clutch had to meet consistent operation requirements. The braking system was tested for deceleration, effectiveness, and stability. The brake configuration had to ensure control suited to the Countach and Oppos as performance. The suspension was checked for geometry and body motion control. The goal was to maintain stability within the established low and wide structure. The steering system was aligned for precision and direct feedback. All deviations were eliminated at this stage. Inspection did not attempt to refine driving character. Lamborghini's objective was confirmation, not adjustment. The Countach left the factory exactly as conceived, without tuning to soften its behavior. After completing inspection, the Countach was confirmed to meet factory release standards. No additional tuning was performed after this point. After completing inspection, the Lamborghini Countach officially left the production line. From this point, the car no longer belonged to the internal technical process but entered real-world use. The Countach was positioned as a high-performance street sports car, but not aimed at frequent everyday use. The car and Oppos' design prioritized shape, structure, and direct mechanical feedback. When beginning operation, all mechanical systems performed according to established characteristics. The engine responded per mechanical settings. The gearbox required precise operation, and steering transmitted direct road information. The Countach did not use electronic assistance systems. The driving experience depended entirely on the driver and Oppos' controllability and adaptation. At low speeds, the Countach demanded patience and familiarity. Limited visibility, heavy controls, and heat buildup were direct consequences of design decisions made early in development. At high speeds, the frame and suspension worked within the established framework. The car maintained stability according to the characteristics of a structure built to preserve form, not to soften driving feel. Ownership of the Countach involved accepting its limitations as part of its identity. The car did not adapt to the driver. The driver adapted to the car. Delivery marked the transfer of responsibility from manufacturer to owner. From this point, operation and maintenance depended entirely on how the car was used. When the Countach left the delivery point and merged into real traffic, the production process officially concluded. What remained was a complete car, created to operate within the shape and structure framework established from start.